Legend has it that in the 1980s, Colgate tried to break into the frozen food market.
Oh, what?
With beef lasagna. Hey everyone, welcome to the S.O.B. Marketing Podcast, where we celebrate the S.O.B. that you are, and if you haven't figured it out yet, we mean small-owned business. We don't mean S.O.B.
Listen, we know that as a small business owner, you are working hard on the daily to keep your business fully operational while trying to promote it. And while some days it may feel like the business is owning you, if we're being honest with each other, I bet you would admit that you wouldn't give up the insanity for anything.
Our commitment here at the S.O.B. Marketing Podcast is to give you the real talk, what works when it comes to advertising, marketing, promoting your business, and then what doesn't really work.
And Chelsea and I promise to always keep the conversation real. Welcome back to a special episode of the S.O.B. Small Owned Business Marketing Podcast. It's spooky. It's creepy. It's a little blonde. Chelsea over here is wearing, I would say I'm here with my baby sister Chelsea, but today I'm here with Marilyn Monroe because she's got a blonde wig on.
I don't know any pink-headed people, so I don't have a comeback for that, unfortunately. But
Jem used to be pink-headed back in the day, but that's
why
prior.
do you keep on saying Jem? I don't know who that is.
Chelsea doesn't know. So you guys, if you're my age, if you're in your 40s, tell her in the comments. Jem was only the best cartoon ever.
Okay,
rock star Anne saves the world. Hello, Anne rocks pink hair. Who wouldn't want to be her? All right. But anyway, so today's episode's a little variation off of what we typically do. It's still marketing based and marketing focused, so you'll want to tune into the conversation. But we just want to remind you guys before we get into all of that, we're little creepers and we see you guys viewing our stuff and listening to our podcast, and we want to know, why ain't you subscribing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now if you're not, just so that you could go back and listen to all 130 plus episodes that we have available for you to listen to.
Absolutely. Vivian, there is no TLDL section this week because we are doing marketing myths and legends and fables. We're taking all of these marketing stories, lores, things that we were taught that are not actually true.
Yeah, okay.
Marketing fails.
Can I say two disclaimers before we start?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, number one, this is case in point the reason that you have to, I don't want to say question everything, but even because some of these things we were taught in college classes, okay?
Yes.
And they're not, some of them are not true. Some of them are true, I guess. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But so take everything at face value. When someone tells you that like a company did X, Y, and Z, maybe use your Claude, your ChatGPT, your Google to see if it's factual.
Yes.
Or not.
I would say use Google, like do your actual research. Because ChatGPT could be wrong. But just say.
So actually do research to see if if what they're telling you is accurate. And the other thing is, anything that we are relaying today is in fact something we have heard or people have written about online. So this is not, if you hear something and you're side-eyeing and you're being like, whoa, you guys are not being PC. It's not us saying it, okay? And so we'll try to be very upfront about what it is people are saying that's incorrect. But anyways. I don't want to get canceled already, you guys.
Yeah.
We haven't even hit our meteoric gem fame rise yet, okay? So let me get there first and then go ahead and cancel me.
No. Let's not get canceled at all. We haven't done anything bad, okay? We're good people. Don't listen to Vivian.
Well, I would say you're good people, but I think you do have, Dad says you have a black heart, so...
Good people,
have
kind people. What do you want from me? Vivian, I do have a marketing hot take. Beep, 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 beep. My marketing hot take this week is that Halloween is the best holiday. No, there is no other team. We're not going to have a discussion about this. There is no other sides. Halloween's the best holiday, period, point blank.
I think we need to have a discussion because you're telling me you prefer candy over gifts. That's a lie.
I mean...
that's a lie.
Vivian, I'm going to tell the first story. We're going to move right past this. Okay. I'm not even going to acknowledge it. I have the Fable of the baby food, Vivian. And this is a story that I was taught in college as if it was factual. This is not factual, but supposedly, a long time ago, Gerber tried to break into the African market. But because of language barriers and...
Can you clarify? You don't mean the African American market. You just mean the African as the
African market
country.
as the continent.
Yes, that's what I mean. I'm sorry.
Yes, the continent. I'd like that. Well, this is going to come up a little later. Yes. That's why I'm clarifying. The African market as in the entire continent, okay? Now, because of language barriers, and I am in quotation marks here, okay? Quote unquote. The fact that most Africans are illiterate, they decided to simply put an image of a baby on the packaging. Well, supposedly people took one look at the packaging and the baby on the packaging, and they were horrified because they believed that Gerber was selling ground-up babies. What? Yo, this isn't true. This is not a real story.
Okay, so somebody in school told you this?
Yeah, this was like an actual thing we were taught.
And what was the lesson that they were trying to teach?
The lesson is that you have to really actually know your target market and understand their perceptions. So supposedly, it wasn't clear enough, the baby picture.
Okay.
You know, because that's where the whole issue came. Here's the problem with this entire story. First off, it has evolved because originally it was just an American company.
Okay.
Then it became Gerber because Gerber's known for baby food. Also, there's no country that's ever named. It's just Africa.
Yeah, which large companies do go into markets like, hey, let's go into the Latin American market. Let's, do a couple countries at once. So it is a little more global. So I don't think that necessarily is the thing I would focus on. I would focus on the fact that people are insinuating that people are illiterate. And now I will say this, data is important. Yes. I do think there are some regions where people aren't
this is why
access to education, all that. So I understand that.
Yes, but I think that's the issue that I have with the whole fact that it was just the African continent because each country is different. There's so many countries in Africa.
Yeah.
You couldn't get a good target. You couldn't clearly understand your target audience because that's too vague.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Is that the understanding that you got from this story? Like, what do you think?
From the story, I think it was probably, if I was telling that story as a cautionary tale of things to not do, it would be wrapped up in a lesson of understanding culturally. But the thing is, their whole reason for that is that people can't read, and so they're not going to read the words. They're just going to look at the pictures on the packaging and insinuate something. So I don't even know that it's I don't know.
Yeah, it
a
just
good lesson.
It's not a very good lesson.
All right, so I have one that actually is true.
Okay.
All right, so KFC, which was formerly known as, because apparently KFC is now Prince and has a formerly known as name, formerly known as Kentucky Fried Chicken.
What are they now?
KFC.
What?
They officially are not Kentucky Fried Chicken anymore.
Okay.
They're just KFC. I don't know what the distinction is, whatever.
Okay.
But they supposedly, their slogan is finger licking good. It was translated to Chinese, and in the Chinese translation, it's eat your fingers off. So clearly that was not going to work. I think for the other examples that I have of these lures, there is some type of miscommunication in the translation or the translating of phrases or words that creates this mishap or misunderstanding amongst a culture of people. And so that is a very good example of why, our parents are actually from El Salvador, and I know Dad and I have had these conversations over the years where it's interesting to me that when people think they're translating from like English to Spanish or any other language, they literally want to translate word for word when you're not. You're actually translating ideas.
Yes.
And so that kind of gives you a little more room to be able to use the appropriate language and the verbiage that best fits. Hence, in this way, obviously, you can't walk around saying "eat your fingers off" as a slogan.
You could.
Yeah, not exactly something that, is going to work. Yeah. But I will say in this lore, even though it was a bumpy start for KFC, and actually this was something that actually did happen, they went back and they were able to recoup. So they very quickly pivoted and were able to appropriately start to market their chicken or KFC, whatever it is now.
Vivian, there are a lot of examples of this kind of mishap happening.
Yes.
I want to name 2 other ones. I don't want to really go into them because I don't want this entire conversation to be about mistranslations.
Okay.
But these are pretty funny.
Okay.
One of them, Puffs, and this is a true story. This one specifically, Puffs, Kleenex, the tissues, Puffs tissues.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So just the reason she's making that distinction, Kleenex, if you refer to like, hey, give me that Kleenex, right?
Yeah. Kleenex is a brand.
It's a brand, but it's become synonymous with tissue.
Yes.
But Puffs is a different
Puffs,
brand.
Yes. So it's Puffs tissues, not Puffs Kleenex. My bad. Puffs was trying to break into the German market. Here's the problem. Puff in German means brothel.
Oh.
Yeah, so they used a different name.
If any of you speak German and are listening to this, tell us in the comments, is that true? It does mean puff. Do you ever use that word?
Well, how often are you guys talking about brothels? Okay. Another one of these stories, and I don't know how true this is. It's a widely known legend, but Colgate supposedly had problems breaking into Spanish markets because Colgate in Spanish, the spelling is Colgate, which means hang yourself. This is a widely known legend. This is not true. There's no evidence of this actually happening. And actually, Colgate has like an 82% market share in Mexico.
Okay.
So they're pretty popular.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not an actual issue.
Well, so I do have one that for me, when we initially were talking about these lures, the one that I learned in school was not the same one you did. So you learned, what was yours? The
Gerber and baby food.
The Gerber and baby food and the African market.
Yes.
What I learned was the Chevy Nova. And so what they talk about is that the Chevy Nova obviously was a very popular car that they had released. They wanted to break into the Central American market.
Okay.
And so when they started selling the cars, Nova, obviously in Spanish means don't go. And so they were saying that people weren't buying the cars and they had to do, whatever pivot. When you look it up, that's actually not true. Yeah. This is a big legend, and there is no factual evidence to prove that this was a problem Chevy had. Now, by the one that I did read about recently was the Ford Pinto, okay? And this happened in Brazil. So they said that when they were going to sell the Ford Pinto, I guess the word Pinto in Portuguese means small penis. So it was not well received, and they did switch the car name to Corcel, which means horse in Portuguese. But did this actually happen? Because I was digging a little last night, and what I actually found was a place that basically debunked, a website that debunked this and said that one of the people actually confirmed that the Ford Pinto under that name was never sold. Okay, so it was actually the Ford Corcel, so that there was never this mishap or this misunderstanding. Now, what could have happened is maybe they were aware that the same term would not go over well in Portuguese just because it could have a double innuendo.
Yes.
And so they just kind of bypassed all that, and the Ford Pintos were not sold in Brazil.
Okay.
So you guys tell me what you've heard, if you've heard what the word on the street is about this, because I am curious. A lot of people thought it was true, and then they did say that there was one particular source that debunked it.
Okay. Interesting. So, Vivian, we're moving away from these types of stories now because I don't want it to be just about these mishaps.
Yes.
But we are sticking with Colgate.
Okay.
Legend has it that in the 1980s, Colgate tried to break into the frozen food market.
Oh, what?
With beef lasagna.
For Colgate?
Yeah, it did not take off.
But why would they have any business going from toothpaste to...
Well, that's why it didn't take off. Because people were like, what is going on here? This
Please tell me
makes
that's
no
not
sense.
true. That makes no sense.
So here's the thing. I was doing research, and it's kind of one of those Mandela effect things. No one actually knows. There is a replica of one of these products in a museum, but it's a replica and no one knows where the original is.
Yeah.
Right? So I cannot find any information one way or the other.
When did this supposedly occur? What year?
Well, and that's the thing. It just says the 1980s.
Okay. Well, so if you were a formidable
you were
age.
alive.
I mean, I was born in 1982. I don't remember. I mean, I was also a kid. I wasn't going to be remembering brand names.
You weren't looking at beef lasagna.
Beef lasagna. I mean, I was probably eating SpaghettiOs and that's about it. But if you were at a formidable age and you remember this, tell us.
Yes.
Or tell us if you know for a fact this is not true. But that seems kind of far-fetched. For one, I don't think it has a lot of weight to it simply because for brands, let's look at this from a business perspective.
Yes.
Colgate.
Why would you do this? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Colgate makes a lot of like toothpaste, household products. And over time, I could see where, I can't remember if Palmolive and Colgate merged together, but one of them, so like then they started doing like hand soaps and stuff like that. That makes more sense because you're acquiring a different business and you're acquiring their
Market share.
not just market share, but their actual like factories.
Yes.
Places that are packaging these products. So an offshoot, you launching something then doesn't seem weird to me because you still have access to factories that could easily create these products.
Yes.
Going from toothpaste to creating beef lasagna, not even the same thing. Also, food is completely different, right? Like you have way more hoops you have to jump through. Doesn't make sense, literal CENTS to me.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any weight towards this.
No. I also don't believe it, but interesting story. Okay, y'all, so I did a deeper dive and found a direct answer. For one, the product in the Museum of Failure was actually a mock-up created specifically for the museum. Colgate has publicly stated that they have no recollection of ever creating a frozen lasagna and that the image in the museum is fake. So this myth is officially debunked. Okay, Vivian, well, my next one definitely did happen.
Okay.
And it was a huge marketing mishap. And I'm sure once I bring this up, all of you will be like, oh my God, I remember that. Apple and U2. Vivian, do you remember when suddenly everyone had the new U2 album on their phones? On their Apple devices?
I do not remember, but I do hear that it was quite the time.
It was quite the scandal because no one had actually downloaded it or had looked for it. It just appeared on everyone's devices. And what was supposed to be a free gift to promote Apple Music, to get people into the new iTunes, what they were offering, it was just a breach of privacy. Everyone was really mad about it. It was also really difficult for people to delete it off of their devices.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. I was listening to a podcast that did a deep dive on this, and they were talking about, I think, U2 and how they were literally how they got as big as they got, and the relationship that they. Okay, so it was the fact that people thought they were sellouts at the time because they had partnered with Apple to release this stuff. And that seemed a little unfair. And then also it did create a little bit of a backlash because so many Apple users were upset about the fact that they couldn't get away from this dang song.
Yeah.
From the dang album.
Yeah.
So it didn't really work in their favor. It was actually to the contrary.
You know, I find it so interesting that they got called sellouts for that because it was free.
Yeah.
It was free music.
And what was interesting too is they were already big. They had already gotten hits and all that. And I think what was happening, and even I believe they have even come out and addressed this at some point. What was happening is they were losing their shine, I think, with the newer generation. And they looked at this as an opportunity to, one, I don't want to say get in bed with, because that's kind of a little crass, but to partner and to be able to tap into that new generation using technology, the technology that they were using that was up and coming. And it wasn't well received. No. So for one, because it was almost like you guys are forcing us to listen to this. And then the other thing is it almost felt like, ew, Dad, you're trying too hard to be cool, right? Like that's
absolutely. Yeah. I'm sorry. Your marketing really scared me. No, it's fine. I just have some thoughts, but I can't share them with you unless you join the S.O.B. community. You won't just get my professional opinion, but also Vivian's and other small business owners like you sharing their thoughts. That's weekly accountability, but don't get spooked. If you can't make a weekly call, you'll get access in our membership dashboard to the recording, along with a discussion forum that's accessible 24/7. Visit school.com/SOB to sign up today to get instant access and weekly support. That's SKOOL.com/SOB.
All right, I do have a tale as old as time that I want to share.
Okay.
And it's in the area of products not being able to keep up, or brands not being able to keep up with their target demographic, okay? And so their target demographic outgrowing them, essentially.
Okay.
All right, do you know what surge is?
I know the word.
You don't know it as a brand?
No.
Okay. So for all of my fellow 40-year-olds,
is it a soda?
Yeah. You guys remember Surge. Okay. For one, bright green, bright red letters. It was very like in your face type of advertising. And what was interesting is I have very vivid recollection of going to the mailbox when I was a teenager and actually maybe like preteen, and pulling out Surge promotional material. Okay, they would send you like CDs of stuff. They would send you, and all of this stuff, when I later got to be an actual professional marketer, i.e., when I saw how much it actually cost to put some of these material together, like, you know, to send somebody a CD case with this CD that has your branding on it, and you're sending it out to all of these mailboxes, massive mailings.
That's expensive.
That's money right there, okay? They dumped a ton of money into doing this like super aggressive targeted advertising to preteens.
Okay.
And their competitors were the Mountain Dews of the world. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, they had less caffeine and less sugar than Mountain Dew, but that's not what word on the street was. Word on the street was that they had a insane amount of like caffeine in it. They were considered like the most caffeinated drink, at least to my recollection.
Oh, okay.
Which I think kind of was like, parents were side-eyeing it a bit and wondering why their kids wanted to drink these amped up, things. Funny to think about now, considering every single person drinks like energy drinks that have an insane amount of caffeine.
Well, I mean, I don't drink.
Well, except for Chelsea, okay?
The one person.
Yeah. I stick to my coffee and that's about it. But, these Monsters and Celsiuses these days,
I mean, that's really funny because all I can think of is Four Loko.
Yeah, which has alcohol in it, right?
I mean, so they've changed their
brand.
Not their brand.
Packaging.
They've changed not their packaging. Stop. They changed their recipe.
Oh, okay.
Because originally it was I want to say it was the equivalent of like 5 cups of coffee and like 8 beers or something like that. Like it was, Vivian, did you not hear about this? Mm-mm. People would drink 1 Four Loko and like go to the hospital. Like people were out from 1 Four Loko. So they changed their recipe. It's not like that anymore. But back in the day, you met God when you drank a Four Loko.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so going back to Surge though.
Yes.
They were super aggressive and dumped a ton of money into all this. I think for a split second, I can't remember for how long, they actually were doing really well as far as kind of like outranking Mountain Dew, but that was short-lived because their preteen people kind of like outgrew them. So the brand ended up just dissolving, going away, and they quit selling it. But it was interesting for me because it's one of those things, if you grew up in around the same time I did, like if you were, in your teens in the 90s, you very clearly remembered Surge being everywhere. It was so in your face, and you probably remember getting some pretty cool crap from them. Like I know we had some really awesome things that they would send us, and you're like, dang, that's awesome. They're giving it to us for free, probably to their demise.
I mean, I also want to say, y'all, go watch the first ever commercial from Mountain Dew. It is wild. First off,
It's definitely not anything you would expect.
no, it's crazy. And here's the thing. You need to understand Mountain Dew's evolution. So it originally was created in 1940s. It was supposed to be a mixer for alcohol. It was supposed to be like a substitute for moonshine. Mountain Dew was slang for moonshine.
Interesting.
Yeah. So go watch that commercial because it is wild.
It is very, it transports you back to the good old days for sure. Cartoonish.
I wouldn't say the good old days, but
well-
it definitely transforms you back in time.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. It's thank you for clarifying.
Yes,
I don't
thank
know
you.
why I said that. It's black and white. It's cartoony, and the whole one of the best phrase.
Their slogan, their
Yes.
original slogan was, "It'll tickle your innards."
I mean, go ahead, Mountain Dew.
No, weird.
So, all right. I don't even know where to go with that one. But yes, that was definitely go check it out. It's something
Yes.
to, I think a lot of people haven't seen that.
Yeah, no, I'm being so for real right now. Go watch it. It's crazy.
All right.
Okay.
The last one that I have to share, and I know we said we would depart from like the mistranslations and stuff, but this one is very interesting to me because it actually comes from the airline company. So I think it also, I had never heard of this one. It actually was true.
Okay.
And if you guys don't remember, back in the 60s and 70s, all of these airlines were competing with each other because, flying was just very different than what it is today. All right. Believe it or not, there wasn't TSA. There wasn't all this stuff that you had to go through. That's all happened within the last 15 years.
Yeah.
That at that time, it was like the new shiny thing where people were able to fly and it was luxurious, I guess, to some extent.
Okay.
So it wasn't like packing sardines into little aircraft like it is now. But there's a airline that was called Braniff International Airways. And this was supposedly an American airline that was known for its innovative designs and its marketing specifically in the 1960s and the 1970s. And from what I've read, they had colorful planes, high fashion uniforms, and they had a ton of flights.
Okay.
All right. So pretty popular.
Sure.
They then started running ads in 1987 that their airplanes were now going to have all leather seats. And I guess that was something that was relatively new because I'm guessing people probably had used cloth for the longest time. So they were trying to make that a distinctive factor for, why you should choose their airline. So some of the Spanish language radio ads, though, that they were launching in the Florida market, when they said fly in leather, they were saying en cuero, which cuero can mean like leather, but it also can mean fly naked. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, oh, wait a second.
And so that was something that did not, go over as well as they thought it would with the Spanish speaking people in the Florida market. All that to say, eventually,
or they attracted the wrong people.
Or, I mean, there are what do you call it? Nudist.
If you say there's nudist airlines, I'm gonna lose it.
No, nudist. What do you call it?
Communities,
ships.
Like cruises.
Yes. There are nudist cruises, so I don't know. People like to, fly free in the air.
Okay, I loved your story. That was great. That was a good one, actually. This is my last one, y'all, and this is like social media horror stories. A lesson to be learned. Remember, if you are using a hashtag, anyone can use the hashtag. Okay. So Bank of America launched What Would You Do in 2013. Hashtag What Would You Do?
WWYD.
Well, it was all spelled out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I mean, the point was they were trying to get people to talk about random acts of kindness and community support. Bank of America is a bank. And the majority of the responses were about how Bank of America upset their customers. It was about foreclosing on houses and people.
Okay, tell me, what was the purpose of what did they think was going to happen? They thought...
Well, that's the other thing, too. So they thought that people would talk about random acts of kindness and community support, and it would be positive. But I think we need to be realistic about the internet. And what goes on there. And no.
So people were they launched the campaign and then people ended up sharing
horror stories that they had with Bank of America.
Okay.
That was the majority, if not all, of the responses.
And so they got negative publicity for it. Instead of a positive campaign.
Instead of like a positive experience. There are a lot of stories like this. Vivian, I don't know if you remember when DiGiorno tried to use the hashtag why I left.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a big mishap.
Yes. They said hashtag why I left because they didn't have pizza. The hashtag was supposed to be in support of of women specifically facing domestic violence and why they finally left. And DiGiorno did not do their research as to what this hashtag was about. So they came off very crass. And also, people were very upset.
Can we quit trying so hard, y'all? Like, why I left? What's that got to do with pizza? Yeah. With frozen pizza? I don't even know. Like, who comes up with that? Like, what was their overarching?
They were trying to be fun, but it just
so like their idea of this campaign was like someone didn't have DiGiorno.
Yes.
And so I left.
Yes. That's what they were trying to do. They didn't realize it was about domestic violence.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Apparently people do not own computers and do not Google things before they launch them, apparently. So all of these maybe that's the one encompassing thing that we can
Okay.
say about
Yes.
all of these horror stories that we shared today with some of the larger businesses. You know, small business owners, you guys are smart. You don't have 10 layers of red tape which just makes it worse, because it's like, how did so many people agree to this, right? To doing this.
You would think.
Yeah. But to our point, if you're going to be planning out your marketing campaigns or initiatives for 2026, I don't know, just, open up your laptop, open up your phone, be sure that you're kind of looking to see what is already out there, because it's not necessarily that your idea is bad or could be used inappropriately, but maybe there's just a better fit for you, right?
Yeah.
If there's already so much talk around a hashtag, don't use it. Use a different one. Create your own. I don't know. And then all these mishaps as far as not being able to appropriately translate slogans or not being able to pivot with your target audience, people outgrowing you.
I think that's the main takeaway today, is that you have to really know your target audience.
Yeah.
And in scenarios, you have to grow with them. Like, really, at the end of the day, it's all about your target audience. I think that's the main takeaway here.
It is. And if you guys are watching us on YouTube, you might notice that our background's a little different. So this is actually a little witch's kitchen back here. But I bring that up to say, if you guys are looking for your marketing success recipe, a good recipe, a good brew that we've come up with, join our S.O.B. community. And I say that just because it's helpful to have a community of, for one, access to Chelsea and I, marketing professionals for many years, to bounce ideas off of, but also there are other small business owners in there. And so it's a good outlet to be able to hop on a weekly Zoom call and say, hey, this is what I'm planning to do for this launch, or here's an idea I had, and then getting other people's perspectives.
Yeah.
Not that you have to take their input and run with it, but it is good to see what other objections or thoughts people might have at first blush. And then you know how to better improve your messaging, how to communicate your idea better. So we believe there is value in having a community to help you with your marketing. So if that's something you're looking for, consider our S.O.B. community.
Yeah. And make sure you're following, subscribed. Pretty please leave a review and go be the best S.O.B. you can be. Happy Halloween.